The initial vision for the Dream Center started, and as far as I can remember back, in conversations with myself and Pastor Torrey Liferidge. But initially it was that we had a relationship with Wadley Elementary School. And what was happening is that to accommodate the charter schools, some of the programming in the district schools were being eradicated. And my thought was, where are young people going to get an opportunity to have those experiences if it's not in school? So initially the thought was trying to make accommodations for the young people who are losing programs at Wadley, who we had a partnership with, and that's where it started. And so it was, if they weren't getting these opportunities in school, let's create opportunities possibly after school for young people to have access, and not to the traditional programming, but trying some different kind of programming. That's where we first started. That was the initial plan for the Dream Center. And of course, that evolved over time.
I think it's important to underscore that even the concept and the vision for the Dream Center was an overflow, I believe, out of everything that was percolating at FCBC. It was interesting, doing some of the research and reaching out to a couple other churches that we had relationships with that had done this type of work. For many of them, it took an average of 5 years. For FCBC, it was about 18 months. But during that time, it was a lot of back and forth about, what will it be? How will we function? And before we can even get to the house and the programming, we had to literally talk about what will this space look like, and the different ideas that we had. Also working with the budget, knowing that this was going to be, funded by FCBC, which is a huge undertaking. And so we had, project meeting upon project meeting upon project meeting, and times where we had to go back to the drawing board and, redesign and think about capturing, because he wanted it to be a space that was alive.
When Pastor Torrey had to exit from the position as the executive director, Pastor Mike put me on a transition team that was supposed to help as we found a new executive director. We did that for about 8 weeks, and then one day he called me in his office and he said, "I'm giving you the Dream Center." And I busted out in tears and said, "But I don't want it." And he said, "But I'll give you an assistant," and I still didn't care. And that was how I started working at the Dream Center, coming in, helping to build that out while also serving in my role at FCBC. I began laying the foundation right away when Pastor Mike said, "You have this thing." He also gave me a very short timetable. He said, "Yep, giving you the Dream Center to run, and you have 4 months to get programming up and going." So when I walked into the door, it was myself and Serena at the time. There was no website. We didn't have an active logo. There was no programming. I think there was me, Serena, painted walls, and a printer. And then shortly thereafter, we began to just think through programming and what the space could look like. And then I think probably a week or two before the opening, reopening that took place in March or April of 2013, I was able to hire on Kathleen Meredith, who was our first kind of marketing and communications person, and also my assistant. And she, within a week's time, got a website, brochures, logos, and all the other things for us to meet Pastor Mike's timeline. I think in the beginning, making a lot of assumptions about what programming we thought would fit in here based on our own personal interest, or I like dance, so they're gonna like dance, and really having to learn how to adjust to what the community needed in order to get folks in here. So I think within the first few months or so, it was getting people in the space, people thinking we were a kids space, trying to raise awareness, and then we just kind of started growing, and then it was like, oh, okay, how are we going to kind of manage all of this with such a small team?
So when I read about it, and they talked about it on the church first at First Corinthian Baptist Church, I just thought it was interesting in a way for me to go for those goals and start planning. And it was 3 days a week, but the program was excellent. The facilitators or presentation from the business world and from different parts of business and banking and FICO score handling and small loans to big loans. And I always said to Pastor Des, I said, you know what, and I said to my cohort too, this cohort saved my life because I needed something to stick on to, and I realized when I'm fed new knowledge, then you and set new goals, the hope of that, of a better future, kind of overrides your woe was me type of personality. But it made me realize that I need to start goal setting again, and once I did that, I felt good about myself.
I just went through baptism with Pastor Des, and she just spoke to me. You know, everyone speaks to me at FCBC. Everyone speaks to me, but that specific day, Pastor Des spoke to me, and the individual at the Dream Center, I forget his name, but he mentioned, he was like, you should talk to Pastor Des at the Dream Center about, you know, doing meditation. So I just emailed her. Actually, I think I spoke to her in person, and she said email her. And we set up a meeting, and she allowed me to do lead meditation with her. I was nervous, but that's the thing about FCBC and the Dream Center. Is just like, you just feel like you could fly. Like, I wasn't afraid, you know, even though it was like my first time doing it in a setting like, you know, like church, you know, but it was so in alignment with where I'm headed.
I've participated in HSI for 4 years, and I keep coming back because of the people here that I meet every day. The community is just very nice. The people are funny. The teachers are pretty nice themselves and funny at times, but it's just all in good fun. And that's the main reason I come back. It's fun. It's something you enjoy, something that makes you think and learn. That's all you really need to do, right?
The transition from going to from participant to executive visionary, I mean, it's kind of like, whew, you know, like, it's a lot. I feel like it was probably Kathleen or somebody invited me to like volunteer. I believe I like helped out first on different events. Maybe it was Dream Center Weekend or something like that. And then I think the first programming I ever did, like full longer program, was Create and Why. So that was like an extensive program. So then I was here like a lot for that. So it was like a slow progression from like volunteering to being in the programs, then running one of the programs. So it just became like my second home. I really want in the next 10 years this to be a communal hub, like a place where people come on their own without the classes, where people can kind of, you know, you create these collectives of artists, or, you know, whether that be dancers, singers, people who create music, people who record, people who podcast, people who, you know, take pictures even. So I feel like it's time to do that now, especially in our community. I think it's an excellent time to build relationships with each other so that we can grow. So I really want it to be that communal space where everybody knows the Dream Center, yeah, that's where I go.